If you ever wondered how far parents can go when greed eats their soul, listen closely. Mine didn't just betray me, they stole my name, my future, and my peace, and then demanded I be grateful. But I didn't cry. I didn't break. I waited, and I made them pay in a way they never saw coming. My name is Saren Amarell, and until 2 years ago, I thought I understood my parents. Not loved, that would be a stretch, but understood. I grew up in a house where family meant do what we say, love meant what have you done for us lately, and support meant you owe us for raising you. My mother, Velora, had the kind of smile people in church envied, soft, warm, angelic. What they didn't know was that it slipped off her face the moment we got home, replaced by the permanent scowl she saved for me. My father, Joran, wasn't cruel in the loud way. He specialized in the quiet kind, the guilt trips, the sighs of disappointment, the after everything we sacrificed. Routine. I spent my childhood being the invisible child. My younger sister, Maylee's, got the praise, the affection, the softness. I got responsibility, blame, and the expectation to be mature. I didn't resent it back then. I didn't know better. But life has a funny way of teaching you who really stands behind you, and who's just waiting to push you off a cliff. When I turned 18, something strange happened. My parents became nice. Not warm, not affectionate, just unusually attentive. My mom would knock on my door to ask if I needed anything. My dad suddenly wanted to teach me about adulthood. They even made my favorite dinner one night, something they hadn't done in years. I should have known something was off. People like them don't change. They calculate. But when you're a kid who spent years being overlooked, even fake attention feels like sunlight after winter. A month after my birthday, my mom came to my room and sat on my bed like she was about to tell me someone died. "Sweetheart," she began, and I swear I almost fainted because she hadn't called me that in 10 years. "Your father and I need your help." I asked what was wrong. She told me my dad's business was struggling. They were behind on bills. They might lose the house. They needed a loan. And that's when the room started spinning. "You have the best credit score," she said gently. "You're young, you'll get approved instantly." I told her I didn't feel comfortable. She smiled, squeezed my hand, and said the line that every manipulative parent keeps loaded in their arsenal. "We've sacrificed so much for you. It's time to give back just a little." My dad joined in later with his signature quiet guilt. "You wouldn't let your family drown, would you?" I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to ruin things. Things were just starting to feel normal between us. I convinced myself that maybe, finally, this meant they considered me part of the family. So like an idiot with hope in her chest, I said yes. They walked me through everything. The paperwork, the signing, the phone calls, the approval process. Except my loan wasn't for $10K or $20K. It was for $48,000. I didn't know that until months later. Because they didn't show me the final documents. They rushed me, slept me with "don't worry, we'll handle it." And like the stupid, hopeful daughter I was, I trusted them. I trusted them. God, I wish I could go back and shake that girl. At first, things seemed normal. My parents made the first few payments. They were cheerful at dinner. My dad even hugged me once, which should have been my first red flag. The man hated physical contact unless someone else was watching. Then one morning, I woke up to 9 emails from the loan company. Overdue payment notice. My chest tightened. I confronted my mom, and she acted offended. "Oh, Saren, don't worry about those. Just ignore them. Your father is sorting everything out." But the notices kept coming. Every week. Every few days. Every single morning. Until one night, I overheard my parents arguing. Not whispering. Shouting. "We can't pay this anymore," my mom hissed. "She'll figure it out." "Let her figure it out," my dad grumbled. "She's the one who signed." That line hit me like cold water. I wasn't asleep. I wasn't dreaming. They never intended to pay the loan. They had planned it from the beginning. My hands were shaking as I walked into the living room. I didn't even say anything, just looked at them. My dad looked bored. My mom looked irritated. "Why are you out of bed?" she snapped. I asked them what was going on. That was when everything fell apart. My mom leaned back and said, "Saren, you're an adult. Part of growing up is handling responsibilities. We helped you for 18 years. Now it's your turn to help us." My dad added, "You should be grateful. We trusted you with something so important." I felt the air leave my lungs. "This is fraud," I whispered. My mom laughed. "No, honey, it's family." The next day, I went to my aunt's house to ask for advice. She was the only relative who ever treated me like a human being, not a tool. Turns out, she already knew. Because my parents had already called everyone in the family. They told them I was irresponsible, ungrateful, trying to ruin the family finances, refusing to pay a loan I took out for myself. My aunt hugged me and said, "I knew that didn't sound like you." But the rest of the family, they believed my parents. I got calls from cousins, uncles, church members, all telling me to stop embarrassing your parents and pay what you owe. I didn't bother defending myself. People believe the story they want to believe. The loan company eventually called me. Not an email. Not a text. A real person. A stern, irritated voice. "Miss Amaral, your loan is months overdue. We need the payment immediately." I explained the situation, or tried to, but it didn't matter. My name was on the papers. I was responsible. The agent gave me 48 hours to make a payment. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry either. Something inside me had gone silent. Dead. I looked around my room, the room I grew up in, the room where I learned to hide my emotions, the room where I waited years for my parents to look at me the way they looked at my sister. And then I realized something. I had been waiting for love that was never coming. But revenge. Revenge was mine for the taking. And I didn't need their permission. My parents had always underestimated me. They thought I was soft, naive, clueless. What they didn't know was that I had spent the past year teaching myself everything about credit laws, identity fraud, financial documentation, consumer rights. I wanted to build a better future, but now that knowledge was a weapon, a sharp one, and I was ready to use it. The plan was simple. If they wanted me to clean up the mess they made, I was going to make sure they never had the power to hurt me again. And I mean never. I woke up the next morning with a kind of calm I'd never felt before. Not peace. Not acceptance. Clarity. My parents didn't love me. They used me. They weren't struggling. They were reckless. They didn't want my help. They wanted my future. But now the game was finally on my field. While my parents were at work, I collected every piece of evidence I could find. Every lie. Every signature. Every message. Every trace of manipulation. I started with the loan documents. My parents had kept copies because they were sloppy and arrogant. I dug through my father's filing cabinet, the one he thought I didn't know he used to hide important papers, and there it was. A full folder labeled, Essay Loan Backup. Essay. My initials. Inside I found the loan application, the approval documents, the bank transfer statements, their notes about repayment, my forged digital authorization form. Yes, my forged authorization. Because the signatures didn't match the one I normally used. They had guessed. Badly. Good. I took photos of everything, organized them into labeled folders, made backup copies online, made offline copies too. I wasn't going into battle unarmed. Not again. I called the loan company and calmly explained everything. Not the emotional part, just the facts. The forged signature. The unauthorized loan. The manipulation. The evidence I had. They asked for proof. I sent it. They asked if I wanted to file an identity theft claim. I said yes. They immediately froze the account pending investigation. For the first time in months, I could breathe. But that wasn't all. I also froze. My credit. My identity profile. My financial accounts. My digital signature access. My parents couldn't touch anything else under my name again. The walls were closing in, around them this time. I didn't confront my parents right away. People like them don't listen to arguments, logic, or truth. They listen to consequences. So for 3 days, I acted normal. Ate dinner with them. Nodded at their passive-aggressive comments. Pretended not to hear the whispers about me being ungrateful. My sister, Maylis, avoided me like I was contagious. She always took their side. She lived off the attention they fed her. She didn't care what they did to me. Good. She wasn't part of my plan anyway. On the 4th day, things exploded. My parents called me into the living room like I was a child about to be punished. My mom stood with her arms folded. My dad sat in his usual worn-out recliner, acting like a judge. "We need to talk," my mom said. I sat down, calm as cold water. My dad cleared his throat. "We spoke to the family," he began. "Everyone agrees you need to take responsibility." "For what?" I asked. "For your loan," my mom snapped. "It's overdue again." I felt a smile tug at my lips. Not because anything was funny, but because they had no idea what was coming. My dad leaned forward. "We did the heavy lifting raising you. Now it's your turn to give back." That sentence. Again. The last thread holding my patience together snapped. "You're right," I said softly. They both blinked. "I am going to take responsibility." My mom's shoulders relaxed. My dad nodded proudly. Then I added, "But not for your loan. For what you did." I placed my phone on the coffee table. Recording. Visible. Unavoidable. They tensed. My mom frowned. "What is that for?" "For clarity," I replied. My dad rolled his eyes. "Oh, stop being dramatic. Did you or did you not take out a $48,000 loan using my name?" Silence. Then, the worst possible choice they could have made. "Yes," my mom snapped, "because you owed us." My dad added, "And we wouldn't have had to if you weren't so ungrateful." There it was. The confession. Freely given. Recorded. I clicked stop. My mom's face drained of color. My dad sat up sharply. "Saren, delete that right now." I stood. "No." They lunged for the phone. I was faster. I walked straight out of the house without another word. They followed me outside, still screaming. I ignored them. I didn't need to say anything anymore. The evidence spoke louder than I ever could. I moved out that night. Not in a panic, in a plan. I had packed my essentials earlier in the week, expecting this moment. Clothes. Documents. My laptop. The evidence folder. Everything else didn't matter. I went straight to my aunt's house, the only one who believed me from the start. She opened her door at 11 p.m. and pulled me into a hug like she'd been waiting for me. "You don't have to explain," she said. "Just come inside." I finally cried. Quiet, exhausted tears. Not because I missed my parents, but because letting go hurts even when it's necessary. My aunt helped me file a full identity fraud report with the bank, the loan company, the credit bureau, the fraud division hotline. And when they asked if I wanted to press charges against my parents, I said, "Not yet," because revenge wasn't finished. Not until the last card fell, It took 2 weeks for the investigation to conclude. 2 weeks of silence from my parents. 2 weeks of pretending they were innocent. 2 weeks of them telling the family I had run away after causing problems. But when the loan company's decision arrived, everything changed. They called me, then emailed me, then mailed an official document, all confirming the same thing. The loan was no longer my responsibility. The fraud was proven. The account was transferred to the actual perpetrators, Velora and Joran Amorel. My parents, their loan, their debt, their consequences, not mine. My mom called me first, screaming, "This is your fault. They put the loan in our names. How could you do this to your own parents?" I waited for her to finish. Then I said, "You did this to yourselves." My dad grabbed the phone. "You ungrateful brat. That was supposed to be your responsibility." "No," I said quietly. "It was your crime." I hung up, turned off my phone, blocked their numbers, blocked their emails, blocked their social media. For the first time in my life, they couldn't reach me, and they hated it. My parents didn't just lose the loan approval. They lost their good credit, their financial reputation, their ability to refinance, their access to new credit lines, their standing with extended family. Because the family eventually learned the truth. Not from me, from the bank. The loan company had to explain why the loan ownership changed, which meant telling them the real story. The fraud, the forged signatures, the manipulation, the investigation results. My parents tried to twist it, to blame me, to paint themselves as victims, but the evidence was undeniable. And the worst part for them, my dad's business relied on his reputation. After the loan fraud became known, clients pulled out. Partnerships dissolved. Their church asked them to step back from leadership. Their life didn't just crack. It collapsed. And I didn't lift a finger. Not one. The system did the work for me. There was one last thing I needed to do. Not out of anger. Out of closure. I wrote them a letter. Not emotional. Not dramatic. Just 3 paragraphs. 1, a summary of what they did. 2, a statement that I would no longer be part of their lives. 3, a boundary. Any attempt to contact me will be ignored. And 1 final line. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by who protects you, not who uses you. I left it in their mailbox, then walked away. For good. I thought that would be the end of it. That the letter, the silence, and the consequences would close the chapter for good. But life doesn't always end its stories that neatly. Sometimes the universe hands you one last scene, not because you need it, but because it wants to make sure you understand what you survived. And that's exactly what happened a few months later. I had moved into a small apartment by then, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Paid with my money. Protected by my credit. Free of their control. I had started working a steady job, taken night classes, and even opened my first savings account. The peace felt surreal. I didn't have to creep around to avoid screaming matches. I didn't have to brace myself for insults. I didn't have to live waiting for the next manipulation. I finally felt human. Then one night, while scrolling through emails, I saw an unread message from someone I hadn't seen in months. My sister, Maylis. The subject line was just 1 word. Please. For a moment, my stomach tightened. After everything, I wasn't sure I wanted to reopen that part of my life. But I clicked it. The message was short. I know you hate them, I don't blame you, but things are bad here, they're losing everything. They said it's your fault, but I don't believe them anymore. Please talk to me. I sat back and stared at the screen. Part of me felt pity. Part of me felt anger. Most of me felt nothing. So I typed one sentence back. You are not responsible for their choices. Then I closed my laptop. I didn't reply again. But her message stayed in my mind. Because if she was sending that email, it meant things were unraveling faster than I realized. A week later, news spread through our extended family. My father's business had officially shut down. No clients. No investors. No savings. The loan debt had put a permanent stain on his financial record. Nobody wanted to partner with someone who had an open fraud investigation on file. My mother had lost her job too. Her employer reviewed the situation and found conduct concerns. Her words, not mine. Every bridge they ever used to climb higher was now burning behind them. People they once impressed avoided them. People they once manipulated stopped returning their calls. People they once bragged to whispered about them in hallways. And for the first time in their lives, my parents faced exactly what they had made me feel for years. Powerless. It wasn't joy I felt. Not satisfaction. Not revenge rush. Just closure. The universe had taken over. About 6 months after I moved out, someone knocked on my apartment door. Not lightly. Desperate. Insistent. I froze. Then slowly approached and looked through the peephole. My mother stood on the other side. Not polished. Not composed. Not the proud, icy woman I grew up with. She looked small. Hair messy, clothes wrinkled, eyes swollen. I didn't open the door. I didn't feel safe. Through the barrier, she said, "Saren, please, we need to talk." I didn't move. She continued, "We can fix this. We're still a family." Family. That word hit me like a cold knife. I unlocked the door, not to let her in, but to speak through the small gap. I kept the chain on. She stared at it like it was the last wall keeping her from oxygen. "Mom," I said quietly, "what do you want?" She clasped her hands. "We need help. Your father is sick with stress. We're losing everything if you could just—" "No." Her mouth hung open. "I'm not giving you money," I said. "I'm not fixing your debt, and I'm not saving you from consequences you chose." She reached forward desperately. "Saren, we're your parents." "And you used me," I cut in. "You nearly destroyed my future. You lied to everyone. You forged my name. You didn't even apologize." Her lips trembled. Then she whispered something I never expected to hear. "We didn't think it would go this far." I laughed. A short, sharp sound. "That's the thing about fire," I said. "It spreads." Tears streamed down her face. For a moment, I saw the woman she could have been. If she had chosen love over control, honesty over manipulation, parenthood over pride. But she never did. And I wasn't a child anymore. I closed the door gently. Not slamming. Not angrily. Just closed. Because the chapter was over. You'd think they would give up. But people like my parents don't surrender easily. When manipulation fails, they escalate. 3 weeks after that encounter, I received a letter. Not from them, from a distant relative. Inside was a short handwritten note. "Your parents said you won't help them. The family is asking if you can at least forgive them." Forgive? Forgive what? The theft. The fraud. The emotional damage. The gaslighting. The years of treating me like a tool instead of a daughter. I knew exactly what this was. My parents wanted pity. Sympathy. Another chance to reel me back in. But I wasn't falling for it. I wrote back, "I do not owe forgiveness to people who never admitted what they did." Simple. Direct. True. And that was that. 2 months later, my sister messaged me again. This time, different tone. "I moved out. I couldn't take it anymore." "You were right." "I didn't expect that." She asked if we could meet, Not to talk about our parents, but to talk about us. About rebuilding a relationship without their poison in the middle. We met at a cafe downtown. She looked older, tired, a little broken, but sincere. She apologized. Not like our parents, not the manipulative kind of apology that hides blame under pretty words, but a real one. I didn't understand what they were doing to you, she said. They controlled everything, even how we saw you, and when you left, I realized I didn't know you at all. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness, not immediately, but possibility. We talked for 2 hours. About childhood. About the lies our parents fed us. About growing up in a house where love had rules and affection had conditions. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was talking to an enemy. I was talking to someone who had escaped the same storm, just through a different door. We decided to rebuild slowly, carefully, with boundaries, real boundaries. A year later, I heard the news through a mutual cousin. My parents sold the house. Not by choice, by necessity. The debt, the lost income, the destroyed reputation. They couldn't keep up. They moved into a small rental 2 towns away, still blaming anyone but themselves. But they never tried contacting me again. They knew the wall between us was real, permanent, and built by their own hands. Today, my credit is clean. My debt is 0. My career is stable. I live in a peaceful apartment with plants I actually keep alive. My sister visits often, and we're honest in ways we never were growing up. And my parents, they are ghosts. Alive but unreachable. Breathing but irrelevant. Existing but not in my world. People always say, but they're still your parents. To that I say, family is who stands beside you, not who stands on you. Blood doesn't make loyalty. Actions do.